Access to Democracy is made possible by donations from the following organizations. Thomson Reuters, a global company with expertise and insight to unravel complex situations in the areas of law, tax, compliance, government, and media. Their worldwide network of journalists and editors keep customers up to speed on relevant global events. Crutchfield Dermatology, a full-service treatment center and Medi-Spa in Eagan. Their goal is to help you look good and feel great with beautiful skin. With service built around courtesy, dignity, and respect, Mayo-trained Dr. Charles Crutchfield personally treats each patient and is acknowledged as one of the nation's best physicians. Truestone Financial, with locations in Minnesota and Wisconsin, has proudly served its members since 1939. Truestone engages, educates, and supports its members to ensure they have the tools to empower their financial well-being. Truestone Financial, your neighborhood credit union. Learn more at truestone.org. Edina Eye Physicians and Surgeons, a division of Twin Cities Eye Consultants, has proudly served the Twin Cities for more than 55 years now in 7 convenient locations. Using the most advanced technology combined with human touch, Edina Eye offers comprehensive services and dedicated specialists committed to excellence with innovative procedures and expertise for the most advanced eye care.
Hello everyone, and welcome to Access to Democracy. I'm Bill Raker, your host for this edition of the program. We're excited to welcome our guest today, Cathy McLeer, AARP Minnesota State Director. Welcome, Cathy.
Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure for us to have you with us today. We want to talk specifically about AARP's priorities for 2022 and some of the focus areas for the advocacy work that AARP does. But before we get into those topics, let's have our viewers learn a little bit more about Cathy. Can you tell us a little bit of your history with AARP and
Sure.
maybe some other interesting things that have been a part of your career?
Sure, happy to do so. So I just crossed the 17-year threshold with AARP, so certainly not new to AARP. Well, new to the AARP Minnesota team. I've been with AARP for quite some time. So started my career with AARP as the communications director in the South Dakota State office. And so in case your viewers don't know, AARP does have offices in all 53 states, including Washington, D.C., Puerto Rico, and the Virgin Islands. So I was fortunate enough to be a communications director in the South Dakota State office for the better part of 10 years. And then spent the last 6 years as a regional advisor. So working with 9 states here in the central part of the United States, providing some strategic support, tactical support, helping them do the work that they do. So I'm very familiar with AARP Minnesota. I've worked with the staff and the volunteers in the past. I did an interim assignment back in 2019, so I was here temporarily for about 4 months. And so the work is not unfamiliar to me, and I'm just thrilled. I took the position in September, officially in September, and have relocated to Minnesota recently. So I'm thrilled to be back and thrilled to be part of a really great team that's just doing fantastic work.
Well, welcome back to Minnesota, and congratulations on your recent appointment to the leadership role here in the state. You know, most of our viewers perhaps have heard of AARP, but could you tell us a little bit about the history of the organization and what its mission is? Yeah, absolutely. So AARP was founded in 1958 by a retired educator by the name of Ethel Percy Andrus. She has we have a great origin story. So this retired teacher went to call on another teacher, retired friend of hers, and found her living in a chicken coop, and was absolutely appalled that this educator didn't have the appropriate pension, didn't have financial security, didn't have access to health care, and she wanted to do something about it. So she wanted to make sure that retired teachers had financial security after they had retired and moved on in their life. So
AARP actually started as the Retired Teachers Association. And so for 10 years, we found benefits, products, and services that were not available in the marketplace that met a specific niche for retired teachers. And what happened after that is those 50 and older decided, you know what, we want access to those benefits. We want to have access to financial security. We want access to healthcare products and services that aren't available for us at this age, at this time. And so then AARP was founded out of that. And so really for over 60 years, AARP has been working towards positive social change. And we do that through our advocacy work. We do that by providing information and resources and education for our members. And we do that through community service to strengthen our communities. So a 60-year tradition of really just empowering people to live as they choose as they age.
What a great story about the origin of an organization that is doing so much for the well-being of our senior citizens. But membership in the organization, how does one become a member? Who's eligible for membership in AARP?
Sure. Yeah, so for many years we were known as the American Association for Retired Persons, and we learned along the way that at the age of 55 or so, people weren't retiring at that age anymore. We did lower the membership age to 50, and then we just dropped the American Association for Retired Persons because we knew that most of our membership was still working well into their 50s, their 60s, 70s, even beyond. So now we are just simply known as AARP. But here's the little secret, and I don't know if we have any TikTok fans out there, but sometime last year there was a young person on TikTok who said, hey, did you know that if you join AARP you can get discounts to hotels and on rental cars? He did us a huge favor. So really there is no age requirement, but I will say that our focus and what we do is for those who are 50 and older. But we also know at AARP that what's good for someone who's 58 is good for someone who's 8 and 80. And so the policies that we work on, while we really focus on the well-being and issues that matter most to the 50 plus and their families, we know that those policies are really good across the board.
So you've talked a little bit about the benefits of being a member of AARP and some of the services. Are there some other things that the membership of AARP benefits from?
Yeah, of course. So we have a vast array of resources that are available really to anyone. So if you go to aarp.org, you can find access to a lot of this great information on health security, financial security, tools to plan for retirement, those kinds of things. That's all free for anyone. What our members get, we like to say members get more. So members then get access to additional resources that might not be available just to the general public. They can also avail themselves to lots of other benefits that we have. So of course the discounts, people love our discounts. Different products and services, again, that are very carefully chosen by our national office to meet a particular need in the marketplace that's not being met by another organization. And so we only lend our name to products and services that have gone through a very careful vetting process to make sure that they do meet a need for those who are 50 plus, and so our members have access to those as well. Of course, we have lots of offerings. Certainly during the pandemic, we've had virtual webinars and movie screenings, different ways that you can engage with us virtually. So of course, anyone is entitled to join those as well. We do some free movie screenings, and when we're all in person, we do a lot of events out in the community, engaging with folks. You do not have to be a member to partake in those activities and offerings either. But what I feel members really get the most benefit from is having me, the rest of my staff at AARP Minnesota, wherever those folks may live, having AARP working on those advocacy issues, being a fierce defender of the 50 plus and working on the issues that matter most for the 50 plus and their families. And
we're going to get into talking about those things in just a moment.
Yeah, absolutely.
We've been talking about the membership of AARP. Mm-hmm. How many members does AARP have here in Minnesota?
Yeah, so in Minnesota we have 630,000 members. Nationally, we have 38 million members, and we are the nation's largest nonprofit, nonpartisan organization who empowers individuals to choose how they live as they age.
Well, that's great, and I think it's important for people to understand that AARP is non-political, non-partisan, but you do focus on policies, policy issues.
Yes.
And so let's transition into the policy issues by talking about the priorities for AARP Minnesota 2022.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up about our nonpartisanship and that we focus on the issues. I also want to say that we don't endorse candidates and we do not contribute to political campaigns. And so while we are very involved in the electoral process, helping educate voters, helping them understand how and where to vote. We know there was a lot of confusion about that in the last election, and certainly there will be again in the upcoming election this fall. We care about the issues, and so we have our policies that the policies that we endorse, not the candidates. And then what we do is we educate voters on those policies so that they can make a choice for themselves on where they fall and which candidate they feel best addresses those policies. So I appreciate that you brought that up.
Yes, AARP is not a political action committee, not a PAC.
Correct.
But it does serve a very valuable function, a terrific mission in helping to educate the public on issues and policies that impact their well-being,
Yes.
whether it's health, whether it's financial services, whether it's discounts to products and services through other venues, a real benefit of being a member or having access to the services of AARP.
Yes, yes.
So what are the priorities here in Minnesota for 2022, Cathy?
Well, we are working on all kinds of things, Bill. So, you know, I came to AARP Minnesota in September of last year. Excuse me, and I have been going nonstop since I started. They are a busy, busy, busy team. Yeah, I'll just run through some of the priorities that we have. So one of the things that we really focus on here in Minnesota is livable communities. And so what does livable communities mean? Well, that means that we are working to make Minnesota's towns, cities, communities, even the state, a better place for all ages and all stages of life. So what does that mean? Things like safer streets, making sure neighborhoods are walkable, making sure that cities and towns are planning for housing and transportation options that are going to meet the needs of everyone in their community. Making sure that individuals 50 and older, and of course all ages, have access to the services that they need, that they are able to participate in community activities. And so we've been very involved in the Livable Communities work. And I have a little bit of news to break for you today. So last year, during the legislative session, the Minnesota legislature appropriated funding to create the Governor's Council on Age Friendly. And so that was a very big deal for us, right? And we just learned today that the state of Minnesota has in fact enrolled in the AARP network of age-friendly states and communities. So we are now the 10th state in the country to become an age-friendly state.
Well, congratulations for the work that AARP did to accomplish this, and
yes,
a good deal for Minnesota.
Absolutely.
Tell us just a little bit more about what that means for the citizens of Minnesota to be a part of that network.
So being part of the network really provides access to a number of resources. So whether it's you know, a state planning committee, a city planning committee, a community planning committee, access to resources, structure to different structures and guides that help them promote and recognize changes that they're making on behalf of the 50 plus or making their town more accessible, those kinds of things. They are brought together with other communities and states who are working on the same issues to identify some best practices. AARP also has a number of resources for technical assistance. So if the state or the community wants to do something around transportation or making their streets safer but doesn't quite know how to get started, AARP can help provide those resources to the city planners or the policymakers to help them better understand where policies can be changed, whether it's allowing more accessory dwelling units or having specific regulations around having accessory dwelling units so that we have more affordable housing options, those kinds of things. We have technical assistance that we can provide that if a community is interested in that, they can tap into those resources and better understand how to start implementing some of those policies in their community.
So it is a big deal for
It is a
our
very big
aging
deal.
communities, our aging population.
Yeah. We also have 14 communities that have enrolled in the network across the state of Minnesota. West St. Paul was just the latest to join in the last week or so as well. And so we are very focused on and really enrolling in the network is really just a starting point. That's a signal that that community wants to be better equipped for their aging population as well as folks of all ages. So enrolling in the network really signals that they're interested in implementing a lot of those policies and built environments that are going to help folks of any age. That's just the starting point. And really what happens then is we work with those communities to build an action plan on how they're going to identify the needs of that community and then how they're going to create that action plan and then implement what needs to be done. So
any community in Minnesota could become a part of this network if they were interested.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
Well, let's do a little promotion.
Okay.
Our program, Access to Democracy, goes out to 30 plus communities around the state of Minnesota. So if someone out in one of those communities sees the program and they have an interest in this project, where do they start? Who do they contact?
Sure, they can contact us at the AARP Minnesota State Office. You can find all of our contact information at aarp.org/MN. That's a great place to start. Or if you're just interested in learning more about the different aspects of creating a livable community, you can visit aarp.org/Livable. And we know that Livable isn't just for urban areas or towns or cities. We also have a number of resources on rural livability as well. And so helping those very small rural communities, how they can stay connected, how they can offer these same types of benefits to their residents.
Terrific. Terrific. I hope that news gets out through this program.
And one other thing I should add about our work around livable communities, for a number of years, AARP has been offering what we call our community challenge grants. And so these are relatively small dollars, so we're talking maybe $1,000, $5,000, where a community can put in an application. They can say, you know what, we want to do this project to improve our community. So they can put in an application, and that money acts as sort of some seed money. They can either get other investors to help bolster their project and help them advance if it's a very large-scale project, or if they simply just need a few $1,000s to put in some park benches to improve a park space so that people have places to sit when they're walking on a bike path. They could get a grant to put in those park benches, and it's something that's quick action that maybe isn't super involved and they just want one thing to do. I believe it was Brooklyn Park received one of those grants last year. They wanted to put in some mobile sidewalks so that folks who were going from a parking lot to like a gazebo in a park didn't have to navigate the curbs or didn't have to walk a long way around in order to get to the gazebo. They could just make a direct path, and this would smooth out the path in case they had walkers or wheelchairs or, frankly, grandchildren that just needed to not trip on the curb as they were walking up to the gazebo. And so it's those types of things. In Hibbing, they had a farmer's market that was kind of in the open air, no real shade to speak of. And they just simply wanted some sunshades to make the experience better for those who were coming to their farmer's market. So it's those types of projects, very quick action, kind of small dollar grants. Those will open up next week. We'll start accepting applications for community challenge grants again. So I encourage anyone who might be interested in taking advantage of that to look up all the information on the website as well.
Well, Cathy, we're excited to have you share this information with us, and congratulations again on having Minnesota become a part of this network. I know there are great things that are going to happen from that. We mentioned earlier about the advocacy work that AARP does. A very important part of its mission. Can you share with us what some of the areas advocacy focus, where the advocacy focus is going to be
as
the legislature here in Minnesota is coming into session here in a few days.
Yes. So very soon the session will start, and if my memory serves me, they've had several special sessions over the last year or two. So this is the new regular session, and one of the priorities that we'll be working on this year, we have several, but really it all kind of boils up to protecting our seniors. So we know that COVID and the pandemic has just been devastating, particularly to residents in nursing homes. You can't go a day in the news lately without hearing that we are in a very severe nursing home staffing shortage. And that creates a whole host of problems, right? So working on protecting seniors. Part of that is ensuring that the staff at those facilities have adequate wages, that they have sick leave so that they are not coming to work sick and presenting a danger to the residents who live in that home. Because oftentimes those staff members, if they're not paid very well and they don't have sick leave, they're making choices between coming to work ill and potentially infecting nursing home residents or losing pay. And we think that that's just egregious. And we want to make sure that whatever dollars we are investing into long-term care in Minnesota, that they are tied to quality care, and that we're taking care of the workers because they are such a critical piece of that work. We also want to make sure that individuals have choice, right? I talked about empowering people to choose how they live as they age. We know that not everyone is interested in moving into a nursing home. Sometimes it's an appropriate avenue of care for someone, and sometimes some people just need a little extra help at home, either with bathing or making sure they take their medications or some housekeeping assistance with that. So looking at those home and community-based services and making sure that we are prioritizing in Minnesota the ability for people to choose what type of care that they have, and rather than just discharging someone from a hospital into a nursing home, making sure that they have options, and that if they prefer to live at home as they age, which many of us do, lots of our survey and research has shown that the majority of us want to live at home as we age. So prioritizing the options that individuals have. We also know that that's a very complex process, and a lot of times, if you're trying to help mom or dad navigate that process, it's very complex. You kind of get lost and mired in the process. You're not quite sure where you're supposed to go with certain things, and so we want to simplify that process. We also know that individuals who maybe rely on Medicaid to pay for some of their long-term care needs, in order for them to become Medicaid eligible, they are often waiting up to 90 days to determine that eligibility, where during that time, instead of deeming that they could receive some of their care at home, they might just simply be funneled into a nursing home. And that might be appropriate care for them, and it might not be. But we think that there's a better way. We think that we can do some things to expedite that eligibility, to get people the services and access to the care that they need, without funneling them directly into a nursing home, which we know is more costly care than receiving care at home. So there's some things that I think we can do to simplify that process. And the other piece of that is supporting families. We know that especially in Minnesota, family caregivers really are the backbone of our long-term care delivery system, right? It's someone like myself caring for mom and dad at home. It's someone like you caring for a spouse. It's someone like your producer who is maybe caring for an adult child who is in need of that type of care. We also know that those individuals may be in the workforce, and in order to care for that person, they might have to make a choice between taking time off work. They might not have the vacation time. We need to be able to offer some paid family leave to allow those individuals to provide that care to a family member. So all of this is sort of under that broader umbrella of protecting our seniors, making sure they have choice in the health care that they want access to, making sure that they're able to have appropriate care in the setting that they want, and making it easier for those who are working in the industry to provide adequate care for those individuals who are in those long-term care facilities.
So these are areas where we need the legislators and the regulators to take action.
Absolutely.
To
yes.
enable and empower these kinds of things to come about for the benefit of our aging communities.
Yes.
How does AARP go about communicating that to the legislators, and you know, what can we as members of the community do to help with that?
Yeah, sure. So we have a policy expert who is working on behalf of the 50 plus and identifying where we can make some improvements to those policies. So, you know, working with key sponsors in the legislature to bring forth those bills. And then certainly anyone who's watching who is passionate about these issues or has an interest in these issues, we encourage them to volunteer with AARP. We have a whole cadre of advocacy volunteers who are passionate about this issue, who care about making positive change in the state of Minnesota and making things better for the people who come after us. And so we would encourage those individuals to volunteer with us. Sometimes it can be as simple as signing up to receive an email a few times a month, and we might have some simple asks. So maybe it's, can you email your legislature and ask them to support this particular issue? It might be making a phone call to your representative to tell them how important this particular issue is. And I can tell you, Bill, what has the biggest impact in the work that we do is when we hear stories from people who are directly impacted by these particular issues. Yeah. So it's someone who's, you know, mother was in a nursing home and got COVID because the staff member was sick. Hearing those stories helps us highlight the need to make these specific changes. And so if anybody is passionate about the issue and moved to share their story, you know, it's one thing to have us working for policy, right? But who do the legislators and lawmakers listen to? They listen to their constituents. Sure. And to be able to have someone who lives in your district tell you how important this particular issue is so meaningful. And even just a handful of stories can make the biggest difference to sway a legislature one way or another to either support a measure or to not support a measure.
Well, Cathy, this is a fascinating story that you're telling us. And as we wrap up today's program, I want to, you know, extend the invitation to our viewers to consider volunteering with AARP. You have a terrific paid professional staff, but a lot of the work is facilitated by volunteers.
Absolutely.
I'm a volunteer here in AARP Minnesota on the advocacy side of things, as well as on the Fraud Watch Network, which we didn't get to
I know, another important
about.
Program. Not enough minutes in this program,
Not enough
Bill.
time. There's so much more to learn and so much more to talk about, and we'll work on a continuation of this discussion, Cathy. As we wrap up, any other thoughts you'd like to leave with us today?
Sure. I mean, just briefly, at the federal level, we're also working on advocacy to bring down the cost of prescription drugs. That is such an
very important issue.
Important issue. We could spend a whole half hour on that. But really, I would just encourage people that if you have an interest in anything that I've talked about today, if you want to make a difference, if you want to have an impact, find us on the web and we'll find a way to put you to work.
Cathy, thank you so much. Our guest today has been Cathy McLeer, who is State Director for AARP Minnesota. Cathy, it's been a pleasure having you on the program.
Thank you for having me.
You shared some very exciting and important news with us, and I hope our viewers you know, are more acquainted now with AARP than before the program. So
I hope we hear from a few of them.
I do too. Thank you so much,
Yes,
Cathy.
Thank you.